So yeah, I just deleted social media again, just because I feel like it's a negative impact, and I feel like any deals I may lose from social media, because I'm sure I'm going to lose deals, like staying top of mind with clients, it obviously has its place, but I feel like I'm going to gain back tenfold by having more time.
On this episode, we have John Sullivan, a former professional soccer player from England who came to Las Vegas, Nevada and built a super successful real estate business. On this episode, he shares how you can build a super productive business by staying very strict to your schedule. Shares some tidbits. Hope you enjoy it. Mr. John Sullivan, welcome. We're excited to have you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so let's jump right into the lightning round.
So we usually like to start with this lightning round that is, we'll just put you on the spot with some questions that are generally unrelated to real estate, right?
I would say these questions are unrelated.
Just to get to know you a little bit better, these are sort of fun questions that we like to start with.
Okay.
All right. So just being a guy that's in Vegas, based in Vegas, I should say, what is the wildest party you've been to?
I have no idea.
That's actually a good answer.
Probably my daughter's first birthday party. There's so many kids.
He's keeping it PG.
Got it.
Yeah. I have no idea, honestly.
All right. What's a chance encounter that changed your life forever?
Probably when I visited Vegas on vacation, and first person I met was my waitress, Nicole, who's now my wife. So probably that.
Always be closing.
Exactly.
John, tell me, what's one mistake you continue to make over and over again?
I don't eliminate distractions during prospecting in real estate, and in life, I eat too much candy. So yeah, that's probably a mistake I keep making over and over again.
So eliminating distractions and eating too much candy.
Yep, probably my two mistakes I can't get rid of right now.
Totally relate. If you had to spend a whole day with someone, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
If I had to spend a whole day with anyone?
Yep, dead or alive. Who would it be and why?
A wife, honestly. These days we don't get too much time together because of schools and stuff. So if it was a celebrity, I think I'd spend the day with Denzel Washington.
Why is that?
I just think he's probably the greatest actor of all time with his movies, and I'd like to just pick his brain about his inspiration and his background and how he became so successful and we remain so humble.
Yeah.
He's a pretty humble dude, so that's a good choice.
Yeah.
I mean, what we do is not rocket science, we are saving lives in a way, but we're heart surgeons at the table. So our job is to sell real estate, and that's what our clients expect, and we're just doing our job. I know that a lot of people go the other route of celebrating everything.
Yeah.
But for me, it's my clients buy me the house, my job,
Yeah. You do a great job, and you actually did 2 years ago, one of the Superstar retreats, you were talking about your past clients and nurturing them. So, it's known that you do treat your past clients and you do effort to do really good customer service for everybody you represent and you work with. And that's great. But one thing you said is that real estate, what we do is not rocket science. However, recently the conversation of, because I'm a first generation American, my parents were immigrants. You came from the UK, is that right?
That is correct.
Yep. To here, and you started from scratch on your own. And
yeah, I didn't know anyone. Yeah, that was right.
So it's I almost reflect and I say, my parents' sacrifice is huge, and I wear that on my shoulders. And I say, I feel guilty when I'm not doing something that's like, when I don't go home exhausted, I feel pathetic and I feel like I'm letting down my parents. But I never think about it in terms of someone like yourself doing some great things in the UK and then leaving it and then starting from scratch. That takes a crazy amount of focus, mindset, remaining positive throughout that whole process. And it impacts your business in a positive way with the interactions you have as well. Can you just walk us through, for the people who don't know really, your story?
Yeah. So I grew up in England. I was a professional soccer player. I left school at 16 and went full-time professional. So that was my life. And then when I was like 25, 26, I just started falling out of love with it. So my switch wasn't that hard because I basically already left the career that I worked with. So I think it's actually harder for people who have a career now where they need to make the money every month and then they have to make the decision to leave and go in. I feel like mine was pretty easy because I was living in America with my wife, Nicole. We had a little bit of money in the bank because I got paid up from my last professional contract. She was making good money here in Vegas as a waitress in Vegas, makes great cash money. We didn't really have any bills. We had no responsibilities. So for me to get into real estate actually wasn't that difficult because I had nothing else and I didn't have any repercussions. So I respect the people more who were in like, say, a job where they're making, say, 60 grand a year or 80 grand a year, which to me, where I'm from, is still a lot of money. And then they want to make the job to sales where they know it's commission only. They're the people I really look to and think, wow, like that's such a big decision. Like, good for you, you know?
And you're being humble right now because you were addicted to a lifestyle of being able to play soccer and get paid for that.
Yeah.
And be a performer and almost committed to a craft of being athletic and doing that. And to go to something that's completely the opposite, where now you're serving people, the attention, it's 360. People are not watching you anymore. You're watching your clients like as if they're your own, kids.
That's true.
So that's a big mindset shift to change to. It's not like real estate was the first box on there. That would make sense, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was a goalkeeper in England, so it was a lonely position. We were kind of a team within a team. So I was always used to being on my own. Like even now, I like being on my own. So like I'm not in a mastermind. I don't role play with other people. I do it all myself just because I like to be alone. When I'm working, I feel like I'm super focused that way. So when I started real estate, it was basically, you get your scripts, you stand in a phone booth and you stand up and make calls all day. So that to me wasn't really like an uncomfortable situation because I'm so used to being alone. So for me, it was like a pretty easy transition. And then just be in sports and how having to be on time with everything and how to be efficient and stuff like that. I definitely took stuff from that into real estate, like turning up the same time every day and stuff like that. So I think that held me in good stead. I think there's more similarities than maybe people think.
The interesting part too is one of our mentors in our marketplace who we met or actually got into MFO because of him. His mindset is the same thing. He likes to be alone. His policy in his office is when he walks in, don't talk to me, because he has like one mission on his mind that day. And his superpower is his focus. And that is also a superpower you have. I remember during one of the events in MFO, you were sharing about how you have every single thing in your day scheduled, even to the point when you call your mom in the morning. Yeah,
I have it in my schedule now. I mean, my schedule's up here on my other screen, and it's like every morning between 6 and 7:30, it just says, John time, get coffee, FaceTime mum. It's in my schedule because then I get that notification. It's like a reminder. So I feel like I try, especially in the morning, my days are really scheduled up to about 1 o'clock. And then in the afternoon, it's a bit more flexible, like, because you don't know if you're going to have appointments. Like yesterday, I had no appointments. Today, I have 3 appointments. I have one at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 6 o'clock today. So that time's a bit more flexible. And if I don't have any appointments, I'll go home to the family or I'll go play golf, like I won't stay at the office till 6 o'clock, like prospecting, Once I've done my job in the morning, if I don't have appointments, I'm happy. Yeah, I'll go home and start again tomorrow.
There's something to be said about, being able to do your role on your own, because I know there's a lot of times, like me personally, when I've tried to build a team, it is really hard to transition to, having those, trying to instill this mindset and instill this persistence and these goals in other people on your team. So it's hard. It becomes really, really difficult to try to, replace yourself and grow that team. Talk to us a little bit about, how you've built out your team, and do you have buyer's agents? Are there other people on your team? Because for somebody who really likes to do this on their own, which is sort of how I feel like I built my business, it is hard to expand and to grow.
Oh, no, for sure. Yeah. So I have one buyer's agent and I have one assistant. Last year we had 2 assistants. We ended up moving it down to 1 just because she was a listing manager and we just didn't have the listings to service it. So we ended up just going back to, I've got 1 main assistant, Aaron, who's incredible. And then I have 1 buyer's agent, Raul. So we're a very small team, 3 people. I'm not really in the camp of trying to grow a big team. It's not an ambition of mine. I just don't think I'm the best leader, because I'm naturally like to be alone, so maybe a little selfish, So for me, like whenever I've had to, like early last year, I had 2 buyer's agents and I really felt overwhelmed with like their responsibility. Like I'm responsible for their income. and then like the training, which I'm not really good at and stuff. So that to me is something I'm just not trying to achieve personally. I know there's some great people, especially within MFO, who've got large teams who do amazing business, but that's just not a goal of mine right now.
And you've been licensed in Vegas for how long?
God, what is this? 7 years? 7 or 6 years. Yeah. So basically, as soon as I moved to Vegas, I tried to get my license. I failed it like 7 times, but then I got licensed. And then, yeah, so I've been in Vegas since I think September of 2015 is when I started.
September of 2015. So 7 years. And you did what amount of volume last year? And what are you guys on track for this year?
So I don't really count volume. Like that's not something I track. Yeah, it's a transaction. So we were down last year. We did 99 transactions, me and Raul. The year before we did 146. So we were down like a lot. Still had a great income year like most people because, the prices are good and stuff like that. And we're relatively strong on commissions. And then the goal this year is to really ramp up. Like that was my first year under 100 deals personally for 3 years. So now my goal this year is to get back to 100 transactions. A bit like Mike was saying at the last retreat, start getting back into that transactional mindset, which is very hard because for 2 years we haven't had that, or I haven't had that, So that's something I'm really trying to get back to the basics of like what I was doing 3 or 4 years ago.
And what did those basics look like for you 3 or 4 years ago?
I had pretty much no time on social media, prospect 4 or 5 hours a day, delegate absolutely everything. I think as time's gone on and my relationship with my clients has got so strong, I think I've done stuff that maybe an assistant could do. And just get back to when I'm prospecting, maybe a bit more intensity. Like sometimes I'm calling and maybe I'm just calling for the sake of going for the calls instead of, okay, I'm calling today for an appointment, I may do that 3 days a week, but I don't do it 5 days a week, And like today, I felt like I had some really good calls. I got 5 leads, and then I just had a client call me saying, okay, I want to put my house back on the market, like a past client, So like, I feel like because I put out great energy today, I got it back, So that today's a good day, but yesterday wasn't a good day prospecting, So it's just different every day, I'm best when I'm just doing my own thing. Like that's when I'm happiest.
Yeah. And comparison is the enemy of joy. And clearly you can be in a better mindset when you're alone and not comparing to the magic pills you see on social media and comparing to what you see on there all the time.
I actually just deleted social media again. I'm not even on it.
I noticed that this morning when I was trying to tag you in.
Yeah, no, it's not good for me personally. I think there's great strength in it. Honestly, all I used to do on it anyway was either look at golf stuff, or me and my wife would send each other like golden retriever pages because we have a golden retriever, or like we're redesigning the house now. So for me, it's just, because I feel like my time's so limited, I would catch myself like on it, just looking at stuff which to me doesn't matter. And I'm a big YouTube guy. So like now I'm replacing that with YouTube. I wake up in the morning and I'll watch like YouTube stuff. So yeah, I just deleted social media again, just because I feel like it's a negative impact. And I feel like any deals I may lose from social media, because I'm sure I'm going to lose deals, like staying top of mind with clients, it obviously has its place. But I feel like I'm going to gain back tenfold by having more time. So this is kind of where I'm at in my life right now, is like, we all want to make more money. We all want to do better. But honestly, I just want to be happy. And if it means that I don't have the pressure of having to post every sale or respond to every comment, because that's like, it hangs over you, like, I think if I don't have that pressure and I'm a little happier, then I'm fine with that. If someone really wants to get hold of me, then they'll find my number. That's how I believe anyway. So just a personal preference, So
when you think about it in terms of you're going and prospecting, you're saying 4 or 5 days, you're trying to be intense, you're trying to go for the appointment. When you have that looming thought of, well, I just want to be happy, I could be spending this day doing this, that, or the other. What thoughts go through your mind, and how do you talk yourself to get back onto your schedule and what you've committed to?
Well, I think I'm happiest when I have a really good morning schedule. So I wake up on time, which I'm really good at. I wake up at 4 o'clock, pretty much clockwork, sometimes earlier. And then I'm in the gym every morning. I've got a home gym, so I eliminated that excuse of driving to the gym back and forth, and like being around other people. Like even the other day, we're in Laguna Beach on a little family vacation. I went in the gym. And it was so busy in there, I got so overwhelmed, I just left, because there were so many people in there. So like now I don't have that excuse, and then I get to the office. So I'm happiest, my marriage is best, my relationship with my daughter is best. I'm the best version of myself when I'm at work full on, and then we can spend time together in the evening. So kind of a complicated answer to a pretty simple question, but I just think that their scheduling stuff isn't too difficult in terms of like wanting a happy life, because having a really good morning routine with no distractions does make me happy. You know, like I've never feared prospecting. Like I know at this point that you're going to have good days prospecting, you're going to have bad days. You're going to pick up the phone one day and someone's going to say, yeah, come meet me. I'm ready to sell my house. And you didn't even really say anything. And then you're going to have other days where you stick to the script exactly. And they tell you to, if you ever call me again, I'm going to get the police on you, you know? So it's just different every day. You know, I've got a really open mind about prospecting right now. So yeah, prospecting to me it's just fun at this point.
Was that a gradual transition to make it fun for yourself? Or is that something from day one it was like?
No, I mean, I see a lot of people who prospect a lot and don't have very good results. So for them people, I feel really bad because they're really putting in the time and effort and they don't have the results back what they should. Because prospecting is all about efficiency. Like when I was coaching with Mike, Mike tells me, don't worry about contacts. He just says quality over quantity. Like your job today is to set an appointment. That's what he tells me. Your job is to set an appointment. And I think sometimes, and even I do, like we get in contactitis, right? I need to make 30 contacts, 40 contacts, 50 contacts. There's some people who make 100 contacts a day. I'm like, at that point, you're just calling for a contact, not an appointment, you know? So then when you start speaking to people like Lee Marcus and stuff, when they have like 6 contacts for every appointment set, that's really where you want to get to. So it definitely gets easier when you know it works. I think for newer people who are skeptical, it's hard for them to really go after it because they don't know if it works yet. But when you've had success, then it's easier, if that makes sense.
And what's the antidote to get to that?
You just got to go for the rejection real quick. You've got to do it from the start. Like for me, I joined Mike like 3 months of him joining the business, and me and him are really close now, you know? So I think people just have to get the rejection out super quick. Because if you send 1,000 postcards and no one calls you, that's rejection, but you just don't know about it, right?
Exactly.
Whereas if you call 20, it doesn't hurt as bad, but you're still getting rejected. Like probably out of 1,000 postcards, 995 of them have gone in the trash that you've paid for, and 5 of them are holding them, and maybe 1 will call you, right? So it's just a different form of rejection. So like, I think getting the rejection out the way really quick is the key to being a good prospector. So like that first 90 days in the business is imperative, you know? It's really just cool.
I'm actually really interested in what you were saying before, that you work really well on your own. So yeah, how does that carry over into like other aspects of your life? Like I know you said you're an avid golfer. When you were first, you know, picking up the sport of golf, were you sort of going to the range by yourself? Do you go to the gym in the morning by yourself? Like,
yeah, I'm always on myself. So like even honestly, I don't ever go to the range, which is probably where I'm not very good at golf. But even yesterday afternoon, I played golf on my own. I played in an hour and 45 minutes. I was on my own. Like I'm very, very happy with my own company. Sunday, I'm going to play with a few friends and Mike's going to join us. So that's going to be fun. But I would probably say 50% of the time I play golf on my own. So I'm just used to being alone. Like I'm fine with it, you know?
Is that because you want to make the best use of time and you want to sort of be able to focus on things that you want to focus on? Like when you're in the gym, if you're going to the gym by yourself, are you saying, hey, I don't want to shoot the shit. I don't want the distractions. I want to just be here to get in and get out?
I don't know, really. I just kind of like to be alone. I feel like for me, like, I don't know, I just like to be alone. It's just a weird thing. I can't really put something on it. I've always been alone. Like I've always been, I even remember growing up as a kid in my parents' house, like everyone would be downstairs and I'd be up on my own in my room, you know? I think I've just spent so much time on my own. And of course now it's different, you know, in the evenings I spend time with my wife and my daughter and stuff. But definitely in the morning, like I don't normally see my assistant or my buyer's agent until like 12 o'clock because I have a separate office where I'm at now. And like I'm sitting down at my like admin desk now, but on this side I have like a stand-up prospecting area. And I get here, I'm normally the first one at the office. So pretty much from the moment I wake up in the morning, apart from my FaceTime call to my mom and my friends in England who we play golf together, I'm just alone, you know? So for me, it just works, you know? Some people don't like being alone. Sometimes people Google Hangout and prospect. I just think for me, like I don't need that accountability. I feel like I'm self-driven. So if I was on a Google Hangout, I think my performance would probably drop, not improve, you know? Because I've got nothing to prove to anyone. You know, like I feel very comfortable with myself. I know when I have good days, bad days. I know when I have good years, bad years. So that's just kind of where I'm at in my life right now. And I think that changed when I had kids or when I had my daughter Maxwell. Like life just, I don't know if you guys have kids, but life just changes when you have a kid, you know? So you just feel different about everything.
It said there's peace when you're alone and you're comfortable with yourself and your own thoughts are entertaining for you. And there's peace there.
Yeah, I mean, look how many like successful people are just geniuses, and they probably spent most of the time planning it on their own. Like, there's that famous picture of Jeff Bezos, right, in his home garage or something like that, right? I mean, imagine how many years he spent on his own. Now he's not alone; he's got loads of people around him. But I'm sure, like, so many successful people just spent so much time alone. Like those early days, Mike talks about where he'd wake up, he'd go work out, he'd go to a shower, he'd put a suit and tie on, he'd walk into his office, he'd hang his jacket up, and then he was alone. You know, so. I just like being alone. Yeah.
Well, I think we know what we're going to title this episode.
Yeah, it's being alone. So yeah, it's probably the most uninspiring podcast of all time. But yeah, for me, like, I just think simplicity is what really makes things go round. You know, like just having a very similar schedule every day and just keeping it as simple as possible. The problem with our industry is, from a distance, with all the TV shows and Instagram and that, it looks so glamorous. But really, the people who are really doing well, like, it's a pretty lonely business. It's not that glamorous, you know. The results and the rewards are incredible, but as an actual industry, about what we have to go through, you know, like negotiating repairs, you know, following up with a client for a year to get their list, all that stuff, it's not really a glamorous business, you know.
Right.
Definitely.
But I mean, I think there's something to be said about that strict focus, because, you know, we can point and laugh at it when we keep using the word alone, but I would almost replace that word alone with just, you know, strict focus and, you know, cutting out all those distractions, you know, because like I know there was times in our office where we would say, oh, we're going to all prospect together, you know, on Fridays, and sometimes other agents from other offices would come, but, you know, a lot of that can just be totally distracting. And, you know, I would argue that a lot of times that I made a hell of a lot more contacts when I was just sort of locked in.
Yeah, locked in, because like even a little thing, like say you're doing a group prospect and then you meant to start at 8 and someone turns up at 8:02, that would just annoy me, you know? Or like say when I used to role play for a short time with people, I've generally always role played alone, but if they would turn up to the call late, that would just put me in a bad mindset. So for me, I just try and eliminate everything that will put me in a bad mindset. And then if I put myself in a bad mindset, then I know what I've got to change, you know? So yeah, I just like the simplicity of like keeping my mornings media free and generally people free, you know, like the mornings are for creating, the afternoons are for doing. Now, I love people. I love spending time with people. I have some great friends. Like tonight, me and my wife are going out for dinner with friends on the Strip. So we love that. But in a business sense, unless I'm meeting clients or really close vendors who are important to me, I just like being alone, you know?
Yeah. One thing that resonated with me is when you were talking about, you know, you feel bad for the people who are making a lot of those contacts, not getting the results that they wanted.
Yeah.
You know, especially when, you know, right now when the market was changing with the rate changes, there was like some bursts of expireds that were great, and that there was a crazy amount of opportunity there. But then trying to find other lead sources, I personally do find myself in that mindset of like, all right, well, I'm just going to make a bunch of appointments. I'm not going to leave here. I'm going to make a bunch of calls. I'm not going to leave here until I book an appointment. So I get in that mindset of working hard and maybe contactitis, right? Fooling myself for productive work versus profitable work. What are some of those switches that would make the difference between somebody who's trying to just have that mindset versus like a Lee Marcus who has a 6 contacts per appointment set?
I think you've got to, so the reason Lee's so successful is because he has an end. We all have a start time every day, but very few of us have an end time. And Lee has an end time because he does things like he picks up his daughters from school, or he does like in the middle of the day, he'll take his daughter for ice cream and it's in the schedule, right? So I think if we start compressing our day, like we always start on time, but if we end it, if we have an end time, so like my end time is generally 6 o'clock, you know? Today, though, I've got an appointment at 6 o'clock, so I'm even extending my thing. And the reason I'm doing that today is because I don't want it to creep into the weekend because it's Friday. But I think if we start having that end time, I think we'll be way more efficient. And I know for me, like after I prospect and before appointments, that's to me is just complete dead time. I generally do very little in that, and it's hard to keep because what we do is really hard every day. So keeping our like energy and enthusiasm up and that is really tough. So yeah, I would say that we've got to have that end time. Like I get home at this time, and then I think we would be more. I think then would be because you prospect all day, you get home at 8 o'clock, you have dinner, you go to sleep, you wake up the next day at 4. That's when you're going to get like burnt out, you know. And it's all about consistency over a long time. I was just having my coaching call was about that today, actually, with Mitch. It's just the long-term consistency, which is realistic, you know?
Yeah, definitely the compound of the consistency is more valuable than the sudden intense bursts, because then you start resenting that burst. And then,
listen, if you've got nothing going and you really need the money and you're like desperate or you're starting in the business, like I used to prospect like 10 hours a day. My first year in the business, I worked probably 17, 18 hours a day to give me that springboard. So I think if you're brand new in the business, I think you should do that. Like, not maybe to them levels, but you should really put everything in. But I think for like majority of agents who we're going to be doing this for the rest of our career, having that end time where it's, you know, I think Larry Kozak used to tell me when he coached me, every day dinner was on the table at 5:30 and he couldn't miss that. So he made sure every day he was home by 5:30. And if he had to take a listing appointment, he'd go home, have dinner with his kids, and then he'd leave at like 6 to go on a listing appointment, you know, but he was home every day by that 5. And I think if you have that, oh my God, I've got to be home every day. Like we have the feeling I've got to be at the office to prospect or role play every day. If we have that feeling I've got to leave every day, I think we'll do way more.
Yeah. I think it's interesting sometimes by having children, you know, involved in your schedule, right? It does give you that end time. Like me and KIRO both being, you know, without children, there are times where we're like, shit, dude, I don't have my appointment. I'm just staying here until I get that appointment.
Yeah. And that's a great attitude to have. I don't want to dismiss that. And listen, I'll be the first to admit, some days I go home and I'm just like on the couch sleeping. My wife's like, okay, John's tired, you know? So I'm not saying I go home and I'm father of the year, but yeah, when you don't have kids for sure, you just like, okay, let's just keep working at it. But for me, when I do that, that only lasts for a short amount of time, because then I feel like then I start getting burnt out, you know, because this business can burn you out, you know. And I've heard people say, I don't believe in burnout. I kind of do believe in burnout, you know. That's why I try and schedule a vacation every couple of months with the family so we have something to look forward to, you know.
Yeah.
How do you differentiate the lines? Because I feel like between, you know, complacency and trying to achieve the goal that you have, it's almost very blurred.
Oh, so blurred.
So how do you differentiate the difference where you're not making those thoughts in your mind aren't excuses to be complacent versus, you know, what you actually want to achieve, which is like the happiness, the balance?
Yeah, that's just hard. It's just never ending. It's a never ending challenge, you know. Some days it's easier to take. I mean, I don't know if I struggle with that, to be honest with you, but I just try and be happy. So like, I look at my bank account like 6, 7, 8 times a day. That's like something I do as soon as I wake up. Because for me, that's like the measuring stick of where I'm at as a professional, not as a person, you know, as a professional. As a person, it could be anything, right? Because sometimes we're judged as a person by how much money we have or don't have, and I don't agree with that personally. But as a profession, we're paid to serve, you know, the money we receive is based on the service we give, as Mike says. So I think that just keeps me accountable. And if I'm really struggling at that point, or I've spent all my money on stuff, then that just gets me realigned and focused on work, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And you've been fortunate enough to have so much proximity to Mike, and you've been an amazing student, right? Where everything, you absorb it and you implement it right away. What are some 1 or 2 biggest takeaways that made a massive shift for you that you got from Mike?
Well, first of all, the person he is on stage is not who he is. He's like the calmest, quietest guy I've ever met. You know, and that may be because he's older and his voice is going, but like, I look at Mike, like when he goes on stage for those 4 days and does that event, that's his listing appointment. So that's what I learned, is that we don't have to be the person on the listing appointment all the time, you know, but when we're on the listing appointment, we've got to give it everything. And I think everyone knows Mike. Every time he goes on stage, whether it's a small crowd or, he gives it everything. Just like when he plays golf, he gives it everything. But then when he's finished, he's very calm. Like, he's just a very calm guy. So I think what I've learned most from Mike is, one, consistency over time. His message has never changed. He hasn't tried magic pills. He hasn't tried finding the special. He's just done the same thing over and over. And he's so strong in his belief because of how long he's been doing it for. And then I think the second thing I just learned from him is he knows when it's time to perform. And then he conserves his energy, you know? And I think that's something which I really look up to, you know?
Yeah.
That's good.
That's really strong. In terms of when you go on those listening presentations, taking that mindset that you learned from Mike, what are some shifts that you've made to make it even more impactful and more effective to emulate him?
I just think the time, like if I'm going to spend an hour preparing for an appointment, going on the appointment, driving there, like I feel like I really am the best agent for that client. Now, if someone has a horse property in the middle of nowhere, on 200 acres, then I'm going to tell the client, I'm definitely not the best agent for you. I can list your house, but I'm not the best agent for you at this time, you know? But I really have the belief that when I go on appointments, I'm the right agent to help the client. I feel like we give the best service. Now, there's probably someone who gives better, but I feel we give the best service. We do a great job for our clients. We go above and beyond for our client. So I think that's helped my mindset, knowing that I'm going there to help the person. Like if someone wants to sell their house, I feel like I'm the right agent to help them, you know? That's kind of the mindset.
Yeah, Mike does a really good job of, he always mentions the book Psycho-Cybernetics. I think it was Maxwell Maltz. I might be butchering the author's name.
Okay.
But he does a really good job with how you identify as a person, and you're going to be in that character when you're doing it. So if you think of yourself as a top producing agent, your activities will be associated with that. And if you think you are the best option for that person, you truly believe that, your identity will come out through that performance that you're having or that presentation, and the conviction will relate to that.
Yeah, and that's why you just got to ask questions, because there is a real fine line between being overconfident and like not cocky, but like, so that's why Mike teaches us all the time to ask so many questions. So it's about them, because, you know, sometimes when you are nervous under pressure, you do like talk about your company or your stats, or you sold the neighbor's home. I mean, you don't mean to do it. You're just under pressure, you know, like sometimes listing appointments are high pressure experiences. A lot of the time you're meeting the clients for the first time. You're in their home, so it's their comfort zone. You're telling them a price much lower than they think their home is worth, that they've been paying their mortgage on for 20 years. You know, sometimes our commission checks are bigger than what they're going to net, you know? So they're high pressure situations. And that's why I think the questions really that Mike teaches us really helps us learn like exactly what they want, you know? Because even if you pre-call, you don't always know exactly what they want. Like situations do change, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. With someone who's struggling, and just in closing, with someone who's struggling with focus and learning what you've learned so far, being where you are in your career right now, what's one piece of advice you would share with someone to get them back on track?
Delete social media for 30 days. That's what I would do. If I was struggling on focus and I was getting distracted, and then I would create a separate space where I prospect, which is not my computer area. Because it's so easy when you're sitting down at your desk to have like your emails up, your calendar up, your MLS up. So I would literally just like go full circle and say, you know what, when I prospect, I have one screen. It only has my dialer on it and my numbers, and I have nothing else. I mean, I would recommend everyone who prospects to have a different area to where they normally sit at their desk. Like the only times I sit at this area is between 1 and 3, which is like my dead time. Because just standing up all day long is just hard, you know? But even now, I feel like when I'm sitting, I have way less energy than when I'm standing up and stuff. And obviously, we didn't do that because we had some technical difficulties with my other computer, you know, with that computer. But that's what I would recommend, you know, like is that if you're really struggling to focus, is just delete and remove as many, like turn off your notifications. You know, like for me, when I go to bed, when I go to bed, my phone is nowhere near my bed. It's actually in my bathroom, which is it's pretty far away, to be honest. So one, when I go to bed, I'm not consuming, you know, anything. I'm not got my phone next to me. It's not buzzing. And then when I wake up in the morning and the alarm goes off, I physically have to get out of bed and walk and get to my phone, which is why I don't really snooze. Then I'm just up and I'm gone, you know? So I would just simplify everything in your life if you're really struggling with focus, you know? But everyone struggles with focus. Like sometimes I'm driving, I'm like, how did I even get home? I wasn't even thinking about the way I was getting home, you know? So I think everyone struggles with focus. I think that's just part of being a human being in this world. It's like everything's so fast paced, you know?
Yeah.
Well, or you're just focusing on new things or trying to improve what you're working on. I think that's all part of it. John, I'm aware of our time here. I just wanted to ask you a quick question in closing. You know, one of the things that I think a lot of people that are producing at your level may struggle with is how do you, especially someone like you who doesn't really want to build a big team, how do you eventually keep that level of income but remove yourself slowly so that you're running a business and not just, you know, a highly paid technician? Are you buying rental properties? Are you trying to replace some of your income with other assets?
No, I have 12. I've bought 12 properties here in the last 3 years, I think. We just moved again. So I have 11 rentals and I live in a house. So I think for me, like that's my goal, you know, is to try and replace my current income with real estate. I mean, at the end of the day, we have the best opportunity because we see the deals first. So I'm very wary of people who retire really young and how much they struggle with that. So I'm not like I'm looking to retire, but if I could replace my current income with like rental homes and then not pick and choose, but like by that time, hopefully have a large database, which is bringing me 100 personal deals a year just by coming to me, or making them their database calls, because you could just make them 3 days a week, for a couple of hours. I think that's kind of where I'm at, is I really want that rental income to kind of, and then maybe diversify with some other stuff. But yeah, that's my kind of plan. I just think like the big team thing is really smart to do. And if you do it right and really go for it, it can really work out. I'm just not sure I'm patient enough to get to that point. I think it takes a lot of patience, and a lot of turnover, unfortunately,
I think you also know what you're good at. I mean, right from the beginning, you were like, I'm not the best leader. I'm not the best trainer. Leader, yeah. I'm not the best. I'm not the most patient.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I think that's why Mike got rid of me as a client, because I don't really listen much. But I'm just not a great leader. And what I mean by that, like my broker, Craig, who Mike trains to, he has a large team. They're number 2 in the whole of Vegas. I think they did like 700 deals last year. His team of it was phenomenal. His name's Craig Tan, but he's an amazing leader. He leads by example in his actions and his words, and he's always there. And I'm just not like that. Like I may lead by example in my actions, but yeah, I don't think that that's something I just can go after, because I think if I had say 15 agents on a team, I would feel like really nervous, like that I'm in charge of their financial situation. That would be something which I would really struggle with, and that would eat into me, which would then affect my performance, and then my income would start going down.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Super insightful, man. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Oh, no, it's all good. I think it's great that you guys are doing this. And if one person takes something from this, I think that's great. And anyone who's going after a team, go after it. But I would say my advice would be like, don't just go after a team because that's what other people do. Don't just do TikToks because other people do. Like, do it because you want to do it. Like, what do you actually want? And I think that's, sometimes we get lost in that. Especially after the big Mike Ferry events, we compare ourselves to other people. Oh my God, like, John Smith is doing that. He's taking 200 listings a year. Why aren't I? But you don't always know the backstory,
Right. At times, why cutting out social media helps so much.
Yeah. And we're talking about social media a lot on this, which is kind of strange. I think social media is amazing. I think it speeds things up. The knowledge on there is great. People get access to great things like you guys are doing now. I'm a personal advocate for YouTube because I just think it's really just amazing. But it also does distract us a lot. And subconsciously, we compare ourselves to people a lot. And I think that's something which we don't have to do. Another thing is I feel like I've stopped really building my relationship with my 3 sisters and 9 nephews and nieces in England, because I felt, they just see my social media, instead of like actually having an intentional phone call with them, So I think maybe for this call, it should be, maybe we could just be more intentional with everything we do,
Yeah.
No, that's super valuable.
Awesome. Well, if anyone would like to reach out to you, they can't find you on social, but what's the best way for them to collaborate with you? Would that be email, phone?
Yeah, email is great for exactly. So my cell phone number is 702-556-3541. My email address is pretty long, but it's john.s@huntingtonandellis.com. So maybe you could put that in the, underneath, but I live in my emails. I clear my emails and texts every day. I have no emails and texts. That's something I live by. Another simple thing I try to do, like if I have a text in my phone or an email on my thing, I feel like that's a to-do task. So I clear them out daily. So yeah, anyone contacts me like that, that's going to be the best thing for me.
God bless you, man. I've got a lot of emails piled up.
Oh yeah, no, I think right now I have 6 emails. So when I finish this call, I'll clear them and then I'll go into my appointments. And that's really helped me too, is like minimalizing all those things that hang over us, like, like you close a deal and maybe you didn't buy a client a gift, like just stop what you're doing, order them a gift and then move on, because that's going to hang over you. Or like you have a difficult client that you need to call back and you're delaying it, call them now so that it's done and you can move on, So that's something which I think is really important as well.
That's super valuable.
Well, thank you again for your time. We really appreciate it.
Cheers, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.